Okay, we are going to get started here. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us this afternoon. And we are so excited you could join the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption today to discuss our Adoption Friendly Workplaces program. I am joined here by my colleague, and we're going to walk you through the toolkit and a little overview of the foundation.
All right. Well, as we pull up the slides, I am Heather Miller. I am the Senior Vice President of Human Resources here at the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. And with us, we also have Mary Ellen Smalley. And just give us just a moment. As we go ahead and get started. We've had a little bit of technology challenges this morning, but still have lots of good information that we will jump straight into our agenda.
Yes, thank you so much. As Heather said, I'm Mary Ellen Smalley. I'm the Director of Brand and Cause Awareness, and I oversee the Adoption Friendly Workplace program.
So today's presentation will highlight the importance of providing adoption benefits in the workplace. We'll share an overview of national statistics and trends related to adoption and foster care in the United States, and an introduction to the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption's mission and programs that are working to address some of those findings. We will share some strategies that adoptive families and professionals can use to advocate for and help create adoption-friendly workplaces, and how they can collaborate with employers to support families in their adoption journey. But before we dive in, we have a few questions to ask. So the first question is to acknowledge, have you or someone in your life been touched by adoption or foster care? So if you could go ahead and answer in the chat, A for yes or B for no, that will be helpful. And we have these series of questions available to really help us gather this information, and it's going to tie into the statistics that we share later, and also continue to help us tailor our information and guidance for future presentations. Great. So our next question that we have for question 2 is, does your organization currently offer adoption and or foster care benefits? So very similar, if you could answer A for yes and B for no. We are tracking when we're asking these questions. All right, so a lot of good mix that we're seeing. The next question is related to the type of benefits that are offered. So if you could indicate whether your organization currently offers adoption and or foster care benefits, and what do they include? And so A, we're looking for leave support. That's generally paid leave. B is financial assistance, so some type of support financially to complete the adoption process. Or C, does your organization currently support both of those benefits? We're also curious to if your organization provides any other type of benefits or support related to adoption or foster care. And if so, please feel free to drop that in the chat as well. All right. And our final question that we have is, if your organization does not offer adoption or foster care benefits, what do you think may be preventing that? So A is potentially there is a need for further guidance related to leave benefits and support. B, perhaps there needs to be more guidance specifically related to the financial assistance component. C, maybe the organization just needs a stronger business case to begin offering the benefits. D is a combination of all of those. Maybe all of these speak to where the organization is. Or of course, E is if there are any other challenges that may be going on that may be prohibiting the benefit. If you could include that information, it would be very helpful.
Thank you all so much for sharing your answers to those questions. Before we dive into the toolkit, I just wanted to give you some quick history on the foundation and our work. Our founder, Dave Thomas, was passionate that every child have a loving, safe, and permanent family. He would always say that these children are not someone else's responsibility, they are our responsibility. And we live his legacy every day through our programs. The mission of the foundation is to dramatically increase the number of adoptions in North America's foster care systems, and we believe that every child is adoptable. In the United States, there are more than 360,000 children in foster care, and of those children, more than 100,000 are waiting to be adopted. That means that a judge has determined that it is unsafe for them to return home to their family of origin. We also know that there are more than 20,000 children who age out of care every year without a family. And these are just staggering statistics that we are working every day to find more permanent homes for the more than 100,000 waiting youth. The foundation has several signature programs, including Adoption Friendly Workplace, which is what we'll primarily focus on today. But as a quick overview, we also have the National Adoption Day, which celebrates foster care adoptions in November. We support national organizations through grant making, which helps support post-adoption services and child welfare trainings. And the primary program of the foundation is called Wendy's Wonderful Kids. Through this program, we provide support for the hiring of adoption professionals known as recruiters. These recruiters work with older children, including teenagers, sibling groups, and children with special needs. They take on smaller caseloads and use an evidence-based approach called child-focused recruitment, in which they focus on the youth's known network to find a family to adopt them. Through research, we know that this is up to 3 times more effective in helping the youth serve, and to date, we are proud to say that we have found homes for more than 15,000 waiting children. To better understand our work, we wanted to share the story of Haley, Jaden, Jace, and Alexis with you. There is no audio on this clip for about the first 10 seconds, so don't panic if you don't hear anything right away.
I'm 14 years old.
I am 12 years old.
10 years old.
How old are you?
7.
They were in an abuse and neglectful situation with their biological family.
Whenever I was in foster care, I was a little bit worried that I would get adopted. I was at school and I was on my Chromebook and I wrote to Justin. I sent him a message and I said I had to be adopted.
I was Jaden's 5th grade teacher, homeroom teacher, and then I was also his reading and social studies teacher that year.
He came home from school one day and said, there is a boy in my class who told me today he needs to be adopted. And he said, would you be willing to adopt this little boy? And I said, yes. And he said, well, he's got 3 other siblings. How do you feel about that? Because it's a package deal. And I said, yes, let's do it.
It always means a lot to me when I can help children achieve permanency with siblings. To be able to see them to not only stay together, but to flourish and see the individual personalities come out, that's just an amazing experience.
I was shocked whenever we got told that they were going to adopt us. I was surprised because there were so many of us. We had to move to a bigger house within a month. We had to buy bunk beds. We had to buy clothing, toys. I mean, so many things like bigger pots and pans and bigger baking sheets. When we would have supper, they would come to the table and think they could take their plates to like their bedrooms and eat. And we were like, no, we're gonna eat all together. That's what we do. Haley is very sweet. She is generous.
She's definitely our most responsible.
She has expressed interest in becoming a NICU nurse. I fully believe that she will do that. Jaden is mischievous. He's funny. He's got the best sense of humor. He's going to want to do something vocational.
Alexis is our little unicorn princess. She is all things pink and purple.
She will be a daycare teacher, and she will want to be in the newborn class with the little babies.
And then Jace is our fireball.
I mean, the sky's the limit for that boy.
It's been a big life change, but it seems so natural. It's made our family complete.
I think adoption has changed their lives with stability.
It feels amazing because I know whatever I do, my parents will support me in it.
So those were just 4 of the 15,000 children that we've helped place in their forever families. And we know that when you all are thinking about creating policies to support families who adopt, that it can be very complicated because there is not just one type of adoption. And because we focus on foster care adoption, we also offer resources that can help explain the other types of adoption that could be helpful to review before creating your adoption-friendly workplace policies. So just as a place to start, we wanted to review the types of adoption and the costs associated, because a lot of times what we hear is that when creating these adoption-friendly workplaces policies, there's an unknown of where to start with financial assistance. So as you can see here on this slide, the range of costs can be anywhere from $0 to $60,000. So foster care adoption is typically less than $5,000, but there are some costs involved. Private infant adoption, which would be when you're working with a private adoption agency, can cost upwards of $60,000. International adoption also has that same range. And of course, the criteria would be very different depending on which country you're working with. And then there's also stepchild adoption, which is typically less than $3,000. We have more information about the types of adoption in our foundation step-by-step guide to adoption. So we really encourage you, if you have time, to go to our website, davethomasfoundation.org/adoption guide. The URL is there on your screen. It is a free resource. It walks through the expectations of all the types of adoption and can really help you understand what each of the families in your workplace might be doing in their various paths to adoption. So every 5 years, we connect with the Harris Poll and we commission a study called the Foster Care and Adoption Attitude Survey. And we have been doing this survey for many, many years. And the last one that we completed was in 2022. We surveyed over 1,400 American adults, and we do this in order to understand what the public believes about adoption and foster care and to help reverse any misconceptions or stigmas that may inhibit the belief that every child is adoptable. So like I said, we work with the Harris Poll to administer this survey. And what we found was that fewer than 1 in 10 adults said that they had adopted a child. But what we also saw that was a trend was that private and international adoptions in 2022 had taken a dip, but there was a rise in foster care adoptions. We are going to be re-administering this survey in 2027, and we really look forward to seeing what kind of trends come out of it. But this could be very helpful when creating your adoption-friendly workplace policy, because you can see that the trend to adopt is still staying pretty steady. We also found in this survey that 56% of the people surveyed had in some way been touched by adoption. That could mean that they were adopted, that someone in their family adopted. 37% are considering adoption, and 75% think society should be doing more to encourage foster care adoption, which we really love to see. The 2 most important takeaways when looking at your adoption-friendly workplace policy, however, though, is that 64% of participants noted that their employer-provided financial reimbursement really impacted their decision to adopt, which makes sense because as we just previously saw, all types of adoption are going to take some sort of financial commitment. We also found that 68% say that employer-provided paid leave impacted their decision to adopt, which again makes a lot of sense. Anytime you're bringing a new family member into the home, there is an adjustment period necessary, and having that paid time off can certainly alleviate some of the stress around that.
All right. So given the statistics that were shared and just the incredible impact to also help employers engage in this process, the foundation has created a free downloadable resource to help organizations implement adoption and foster care policies. The Adoption Friendly Workplace Employer Toolkit includes an overview of an adoption assistance program. It includes employer considerations for leave benefits, financial and tax considerations, sample policies, FAQs about adoption benefits, and a sample news release announcing an employee's commitment to the effort. So we're going to share more details from the toolkit in this presentation, but as we're here, you can also download your own copy at davethomasfoundation.org/AFW. And so as we mentioned a few slides ago, employer paid leave plays a large role in someone's decision to adopt. 68% indicated that having paid leave benefits impacted their decision, which was also slightly higher than 64% who indicated the financial assistance impacted their decision. Additionally, according to SHRM's 2024 Employee Benefits Survey, 33% of employers provide paid adoption leave. 26% of employers provide paid foster care leave, and less than 1% of eligible employees actually use the benefits. So while these benefits are a relatively small investment for most organizations, they can have a huge impact. Adoption benefits also offer advantages to employers. In past surveys, employers have cited multiple factors over the years that have influenced their decision to offer these benefits. Some of those have included it helps to create a loyal employee base, which helps with retention, as well as offers a competitive advantage in attracting top talent, all while providing a low-cost benefit. Some have responded that they were just trying to support an employee's request for assistance. Some other responses indicate that there is a goal to ensure equity for adoptive and foster parents. And so an example of that is ensuring that employees receive time to bond with an adopted child, just as they would for having the birth of a child. There's also some of those financial considerations for equity. So some might like to ensure that they provide that financial support in lieu of having a medical childbirth cost that may have to come with being on someone's insurance. Overall, a large portion have also cited that it helps to support a family-friendly image, and 62% of employers indicate it provides a competitive benefits package. Employers can also receive tax benefits related to providing an adoption assistance program, referred to as an AAP. So an AAP is a voluntary employer-sponsored benefit that financially assists or reimburses employees for expenses related to the adoption of a child. This is a formal written plan document that is maintained by the employer, and it often differs from a general benefits policy or summary. There are several considerations and decisions that must be made by each employer on how that plan will be set up. Some of those include determining the eligibility requirements, if the benefit will apply to those who finalize adoptions or include those that have unsuccessful adoption efforts, and also determining which expenses are eligible. So I know that's a lot of information, and we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into both of these sections, but also please keep in mind that the employer toolkit that I referred to does have a template sample of an AAP and policies that can really help to guide and simplify the information for easier implementation. So some of the considerations related to what expenses may be eligible, most employers use the IRS definition of reasonable and necessary expenses directly related to the adoption of a child and determining what may be reimbursable to an employee. These include agency and application fees, home study costs, attorney fees, court fees, transportation and lodging, immigration and naturalization fees, and other expenses specific to the legal adoption of an eligible child. So when setting up an AAP, we recommend refer to the toolkit. We also include different applicable IRS publications that can provide some additional guidance. And while these are great places to start, we would encourage employers to consult with their tax team also before implementing any plan to make sure that they are set up accordingly. One other consideration to take into account for financial reimbursements is that it often takes at least 6 months from the time of placement for an adoption to be finalized, and most expenses are incurred prior to that finalization. So we encourage employers to consider offering stages of reimbursement to help minimize that upfront out-of-pocket expense. Of the adoption-friendly employers who participated in our adoption-friendly workplace survey, we have learned that financial assistance policies typically range from $2,000 to unlimited, with the average being about $15,700. And I'm sure what you may be thinking, perhaps you work for a smaller organization, it may seem cost prohibitive, but as a reminder, less than 1% of eligible employees have used the adoption benefits. And while $15,700 is the average, there are employers who just offer the paid leave component as part of the benefit to help provide support. Others may offer a reimbursement of $5,000. So organizations can really look to evaluate what can they start with and potentially increase gradually as they have more information to make those decisions. The survey that we collect also provides some additional information related to employers' policies. And an important call out is that 26% of employers also provide additional financial assistance for employees who adopt children with special needs. And these typically include the most children that are waiting for adoption in America's foster care system. So as a reminder, leverage the toolkit to really help guide through these decisions and the information. The other large part of the benefit that we speak to is related to paid leave. And so I think one of the most important parts that we've learned is that child development experts universally agree that it is vital for families to be given time to bond with their children and their parents together. And so for the adoptive parent and child, the need for time to adjust to each other, regardless of the age of the child at adoption, is critical. Further, there's some other considerations to keep in mind with providing leave, and in accordance to the Family Medical Leave Act, this involves employers that have 50 or more employees, and all public agencies must grant up to 12 weeks of unpaid job protected leave for the placement of a child for adoption or foster care, and to care for a newly placed child, as well as several other qualifying reasons. And so there are also some state and federal requirements that also support providing the paid leave. And we would encourage employers to keep in mind that they can set up any of their paid leave benefits to run concurrently with any of the federal or state leave requirements. A further distinction that employers may have to keep in mind as it relates to leave benefits is related to, again, Title VII or different equity considerations. And so that's trying to ensure that there is a clear distinguishment of benefits that may be related to any physical limitations imposed by pregnancy or childbirth, and leave provided for the purpose of bonding with a child or caring for a child. Of the employers that participated in the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption's Adoption Friendly Workplace Survey, we have learned that paid leave policies for adoption and foster care range anywhere from 1 to 18 weeks, with the average being about 8 to 9 weeks. And that is for both adoption and foster care leave. We are seeing that more companies that are offering foster care leave are starting to umbrella that leave under their full paid leaves program, where parental leave still tends to be managed separately. The other part that we would notate here is that while financial assistance benefits generally apply equally to all employees who are eligible, employers sometimes do graduate paid leave based on their years of service and include a stipulation that if both parents are employees of the same organization, that they may have to share the time. And so while that's a lot of helpful information related to some decisions related to the benefits that may be implemented, we wanted to spend a little bit of time going over the steps to becoming an adoption-friendly workplace. And so we would refer to the toolkit. I really do believe that is a great resource for HR professionals and employees to share and encourage their employers to become adoption-friendly workplaces. Some other steps that kind of give a little bit more detail into that is to start by assessing your current adoption and foster care benefits. So looking to see, as we asked questions earlier, what is offered, what's not, where is there an opportunity to start or expand some of those efforts. Additionally, we would encourage you to meet with human resources. If you are human resources, to meet with your leadership to discuss the value of offering adoption and foster care benefits. So as a reminder, some of those include the low-cost implementation, the benefits of having increased employee loyalty, equitable benefits, and just being able to attract top talent. By sharing the adoption-friendly employer work kit, you're basically giving them a head start on the work that's ahead. Some of those additional steps is that to keep in mind is the education, especially when we start talking about offering paid leave for adoption benefits. It is important for managers and those within the organization to understand the potential need for scheduling flexibility to address pre and post adoption challenges. And so while typically in a lot of childbirth cases, there might be a lot of leeway to be able to plan for the leave, that's not necessarily the case for adoption and foster care leave. So really preparing managers and having solutions in place in order to have that adequate coverage is important to keep in mind. We also encourage individuals and organizations to contact the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption for connections to other adoption-friendly workplaces so that you could hear directly from their experience or any ideas that they may have. We would be happy to do that. And we also continue, even if we're not able to provide some of those benefits right away, there are ways to continue to promote education, awareness, and have other opportunities to create engagement. And so what we've really looked to determine is that adoption is woven into the American fabric. Family-friendly employers can support adoption benefits beyond financial and leave benefits through creative workplace activities. And so some of these we have listed here include having adoption services support included in the employer-provided employee assistance program. To continue focus on education and building awareness. And so while an employer may not be able to provide a financial benefit, there are other resources and grant programs available. For example, the Ohio Adoption Grant Program, Gift of Adoption, Show Hope, and Brittany's Hope Foundation. These are all different resources that could be shared in lieu of or in addition to providing that benefit. Employers can also get creative by hosting brown bag lunches, bringing in local agencies to discuss the process of adoption. We can provide a variety of resources and fact sheets. And so as Mary Ellen shared earlier, we also have our Finding Forever Families, a step-by-step guide to adoption. So just having the abundance of resources to provide the support is often helpful. We also encourage employers to celebrate when an employee fosters or adopts. And so one of the ways that we can also celebrate and acknowledge that is through National Adoption Day events. And so this was co-founded by the foundation and was intended to encourage courts to open their doors on a Saturday around Thanksgiving each year to finalize and celebrate adoptions from foster care. So we have a lot of different ideas of how to incorporate and build in support and awareness. And so with that, we would also encourage companies to provide adoption benefits and to consider taking the annual survey to be recognized on our 100 Best Adoption Friendly Workplaces list.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is the Best Adoption Friendly Workplace list and survey. This is the second part of the program that I manage, and this is really a way for organizations to be recognized for taking steps towards making adoption and foster care a supported option for every working parent. And the survey is entering its 20th year. We are so excited to partner with all of the companies that have been participating for all 20 years and any new companies that join each year. It's a very simple survey to take. It takes about 15 minutes. The scoring system is based on 45% of the score is based on financial reimbursement policy, 45% of the score is based on the paid leave policy, and 10% of the score is based on the percentage of employees who are eligible for the benefit. That informs a score, and the scores inform the 100 Best list. You have to have an organizational financial reimbursement policy and paid leave policy to be eligible for the 100 Best list. However, if your organization is starting out and only able to offer one benefit, you can still be recognized as an adoption advocate, because we really want to celebrate all organizations who are taking steps towards helping families adopt, even if those are small steps that need to be gradually increased as you kind of dip your toe into this policy conversation. All of the participants in the survey will receive benchmark reports through a dashboard. It shows breakout lists based on the size, the industry, best paid leave, foster care benefits, and impact. There is also an opt-in database in which, if your organization opts in to share your full policy details, all of the other organizations who also opted in will be able to see that and will be sharing their policies. We have about 110 companies who have opted into the database, and this is an excellent way to get your policy started. If you participate in the survey, even if you don't have a policy yet, you can get these benchmark reports and can opt into the database, and it will give you very helpful information to get started. And like Heather mentioned, we're also willing to put everyone in contact with other AFW companies who have agreed to be sort of a guide for companies who are just getting started. The list is published in April, but the survey opens in January. So there's a long period of time for you to complete the survey. Registration is open all year round, so you can register on our website at davethomasfoundation.org/AFW right now. If your company is able to create a policy and it is in place by January 2026, then your company would be able to participate in the 2026 survey. When the survey opens, all registered organizations get an email, and in that email is a Word document that outlines all of the questions that are in the survey. We ask that someone on the HR team complete the survey, but we know that sometimes you may have more junior employees collecting that data and they may not know all the information right off the top of their heads. So providing that Word document is an easy way for them to print it out and go around and gather the information. But once they have all the information, completing the survey should not take more than 15 minutes. Once we launch the 100 Best Adoption Friendly Workplaces in April, we reach out to all of the companies who have participated and ask if they have employee stories to share or senior leadership quotes that they would like to share about why those adoption benefits are so important to their organization. And then we collaborate with those companies and oftentimes work with journalists to share those employee stories or interviews with that senior leadership in connection with the leadership of the foundation to help elevate the conversation around adoption-friendly workplaces. And we share those articles out on our social media as well. And we share those employee adoption stories through blogs and social media on the foundation channels. So it's a really fun program, and we're so honored that more than 160 60 companies participate in it every year. And we're always looking to grow that number. And we're always looking to celebrate all of the companies that participate and believe that that adoption should be achievable for all working parents. So I want to share a couple of little stories from our 2025 list. This is Matt. He's an employee at Qualtrics, which is a data company in Utah. And he told us that the employee benefit from Qualtrics was simply priceless because not only was he given time off to help bring a new baby into the home, the financial reimbursement for the cost of the adoption made it possible. And I just think it's a cute picture. And then this is Ryan from Northwestern Energy. He is in Montana, and he shared with us that his company was able to reimburse him for some of the costs of an international adoption from Bulgaria. The process itself was quite drawn out. It took several years in order for them to bring their son Nico home, but the company's support and paid time off helped him do that. And sometimes what we see with adoption-friendly policies is that flexibility is really important because with the adoption of Nico, the paid leave piece of that really needed to be used over time to go to Bulgaria, to complete paperwork, to travel, and all of those things. And so because every adoption journey can look so different, having flexibility in how to use that benefit can really help families achieve their dreams.
So we really enjoyed this afternoon spending time reviewing the different statistics related to adoption, foster care, sharing awareness of our programs and commitment to supporting children in care, as well as providing guidance for employers to establish or enhance their adoption-friendly workplace benefits. It's also nice to highlight a few of those who have received the benefit to really help connect the impact that those benefits had on those families. So as we start to wrap up our time together, we do have a final question and would love for you to share your answer in the chat. And that is primarily is, how will you help make a difference after this presentation? And so some ideas of that may include is to share the webinar recording with your colleagues to expand awareness. Perhaps you may download the AFW toolkit to get started or to dig in a little deeper. Work towards enhancing adoption and foster care benefits within your organization. Perhaps it's completing the best adoption friendly workplace survey. Any of those tips that you may take away from today, please go ahead and share with us at this time.
Sharing the foundation's resources with your network helps to create greater awareness for the more than 140,000 children waiting to be adopted from foster care in the US and Canada. And using our toolkit is an easy way to enhance the workplace benefits. And something we always say is a simple conversation could change the life of a waiting child. So we're so glad that you joined us today and that you're interested in potentially creating these policies in your workplace. We had some great questions submitted throughout the chat and during registration. And if you have any additional questions, please put them in the chat. We are going to gather those and review them, and we will be emailing out a recording of this webinar and pulling together an FAQ sheet from the questions that were shared in the chat. That email will be going out on Monday, so be looking for that then. And of course, if you have any additional questions, you can reach out to the foundation. Our info email is info@davethomasfoundation.org, and all of those emails will get routed to me, and I will be happy to walk you through the process.
Great, so we'll leave this on just for a few more moments for any other questions that come in to be able to give us a chance to respond when we send out those slides, but we appreciate you joining us this afternoon.